those of us who are members of the higher table. And when I mean the higher table, this is the high table, this is the higher table. And by that is because of the number of people on this part of on this we just have about 8 people, and here we are having close to 100 and something. So for members of the high table, all the professors in the house, if you know you convert cassava into any product or the other, you please just raise up your hand for recognition. Please a round of applause for all the processors in the house. For those who transform the stem into root tubers, and we call them farmers. Please, can you raise up your hand and then stand for recognition? Thank you very much. For those equally too who offtake the products, various products from cassava, those who use starch, HQCF, ethanol, chips and all that, the off-takers in the house, can you please stand up for recognition? The Nestle's of this world and all that, the Nosaks, please stand up for recognition. Please a round of applause for them. Thank you very much. All the researchers in the house and development partners, please can you stand up for recognition? I know, yes, we have the FIROs of this world, the IDH of this world, the NRCRI. Can you please stand up for recognition? Please a round of applause for them. The most interesting group is the last group, the consumer group. If you know you consume any of the products in one form or the other, please clap for yourself. Now I see even our expatriate colleagues clapping. Is it the eba or the, which one do they eat? Bread. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for you again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think it will only be proper for us to all rise for the national anthem. And after that, we start immediately. Shall we all rise? After the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Arise, O compatriot. Please, a round of applause for this great country called Nigeria. Thank you very much. You may now take your seat. Without wasting time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say here that it's an honor for me to be here, to be holding the microphone, and also to let us know, as one author had classified cassava as the white gold. And this I want to agree, because there's so much that can be made from cassava, and then if properly utilized, then we can knock off hunger, we can improve food security, and we can do so much in improving the GDP of the country. So without preempting any of the speakers this morning, I would like us to move quickly to the first item, which will be the opening remark to be given by Chief Dr. Alfred Dixon, who is popularly called Chief Cassava, Baba Cassava. I don't know which name we'll give it to him after this occasion. Please, a round of applause for Chief. Thank you very much. Hello?
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Good morning. I'm very happy to be with you here. I've been with you in several Cassava summits, Cassava forum, residential initiative of Cassava, and so on and so forth since 2003. We've been making progress. We've been going up and down, up and down, up and down. But when shall we keep on going up and not coming down? I think that's the essence of this Cassava Investment Forum. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture and the TAAT. I guess you all have seen the definition of TAAT on that screen, or this screen here. Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, the management team of TAAT, and particularly the Director General of IITA, Dr. Saginga, who would have loved to be here, but unfortunately is out of the country on CG matters in Rome. It is indeed gladdening to meet key players in a forum like this to discuss and find ways to advance a very important crop that is a source of livelihood to many people, not just in Nigeria or Africa, but also in the developing world in general. Today, that Nigeria cassava annual production is above 50 million metric tons, up from 35 million metric tons in the early 90s. It's not by accident. It was a result of efforts from most of you seated here in this room in research and development to all other aspects of the cassava value chain, such as processing, mechanization, markets, etc. Despite this achievement of having more than 50 million metric tons annual production, there are still challenges that are still confronting the cassava crop. Our yield per hectare is still low, less than 10 tons per hectare, national average. We are still battling with the problem of cyclical glut, which we commonly call the cassava glut. There are still processing challenges. Weeds are still problems in cassava and several others. Consequently, Nigeria is yet to tap the full potential of the cassava crop, which is estimated at $5 billion annually in Nigeria. This was established since 2003 during the presidential initiative of Cassava. So therefore, when will Nigeria become the giant of cassava on all fronts? That's the question I'm putting to you today, and we must find answers to it today so that as soon as possible, cassava becomes the giant, Nigeria becomes the giant of cassava on all fronts, from production and productivity increase, value addition, mechanization, export industrialization, and export through regional and international trade. From the agenda of this meeting, I understand that today and tomorrow we will review the role of government institutions in facilitating the growth and financial sustainability of the cassava investment in Nigeria. We will also analyze key elements of a successful cassava investment, what it takes to make investment easy and successful for the intending entrepreneurs and the youth. Strengthening business-to-business linkages among the cassava value chain actors in Nigeria, and identify other management roles for TAAT Cassava Compact in support of cassava investment in Nigeria, both technical and business support. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me warn against looking back for too long at this meeting. Yes, you can reflect, but let us understand that no man mounts a plow and looks back for too long. Let us be forward-looking and put our energies in providing solutions. For instance, the work done on the IITA Cassava Weed Management Project, which the Cassava Compact of the TAAT is promoting, can double Nigeria's annual production of cassava to 100 million metric tons if adopted by all cassava farmers in Nigeria. The mobile cassava processing truck developed by the TAAT Cassava Compact can help us in addressing part of the problems associated with processing. I believe the solutions are here with us. All that is required is for us to pull together, and the private sector must truly play its role at this time. I believe that to sustain the cassava production and productivity, we must keep on engaging the private sector. It's the private sector that will make it happen. The government will facilitate the process, but without the private sector engagement, we'll be wasting our time. That's why I'm very happy to see many of the cassava stakeholders in the value chain present here today. You're all welcome. I sincerely thank the African Development Bank, the Cassava Compact of TAAT, the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and IITA for organizing this forum. We are all together, and we should succeed together. Do have a wonderful deliberation and make Nigeria the giant of cassava on all fronts this time. Production and productivity increase, processing, value addition, industrialization, and export through regional and international trade. I thank you for listening. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alfred Dixon. Please a round of applause to Chief again. He asked us not to look back too much, but we should be forward looking. The Vice Chancellor, members of the high table, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to, before I call the Vice Chancellor to speak, to recognize some people in absentia and adventure they're here. I think it will mean no harm to also recognize them. May I take this opportunity to recognize the Permanent Secretary from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Mohamed Bello Umar. If he's here or not here, please can we still go ahead and give him a round of applause? I'm sure he will join us. Thank you so much for that. I'd like to recognize the representative of the Federal Institute of Industrial Research, Federal Institute of Industrial Research, Oshodi, FIRO. I know that the DG wanted to be part of this meeting, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. But he couldn't make it, thank you. So it's my pleasure to recognize his representative in the house. Please a round of applause to him. Thank you so much, sir. We have captains of industries represented here, and still leaning on the recognition and acknowledgement by my colleague Ben, I'd like to recognize all of you, the private sector, for taking time to come. It's not easy leaving your busy schedule to attend a forum like this. Let me also recognize the representative of the country director of the African Development Bank, in person of Anthony Simpasa. A round of applause to him. Thank you so much, FDB, for supporting this initiative, especially the cassava crop, and also being part of this meeting. We appreciate that. Without much ado, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Professor Felix Kolawole Salako, to come and give us the welcome address. A round of applause, please. Let's encourage him as he takes the mic. Thanks.
I think the first thing I should do is protocol. Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Professor Felix Kolawole Salako, but he went through tutelage. I'm an IT investment in FUNAB. And for this reason, I spent 11 years in IT. That's what I mean by IT investment in FUNAB. I should recognize Dr. Dixon and Dr. Bokanga, who were more or less teachers when I was a research associate in IT. Having said that, I should also be grateful that even the co-organizer of this, Professor Son, is a deputy vice chancellor with me. He's also an IT investment in FUNAB. I want to recognize everyone, ladies and gentlemen, everyone on the I table. It's just normal for me to always respect my teachers, and that's what I've done. I have here too a member of the Governing Council of the Federal University of Agriculture at Abeokuta, Dr. Yakubu. So the council of the university is deeply involved in this activity. I recognize everyone, those who have left their businesses to be here. Those who are coming to Nigeria once again, you can be sure that we are not fighting. Nigeria is at peace. Aligning with the principle of sustainable development and economic growth, most experts are developing productive partnerships that will jumpstart our agricultural revolution. Such is the Cassava Investment Forum. I wish to thank the African Development Bank for raising our agricultural landscape in Africa, for walking the talk on Light Up and Power Africa, Feed Africa, Industrialize Africa, Integrate Africa, and improve the quality of life for the benefit of Africa. The Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, TAAT, is surely a sample frame to judge the commitment of the bank to integrate the continent. This meeting is part of the activities of Cassava Compact project funded by the African Development Bank under TAAT program, being led by ITA and other partners aiming at contributing to the transformation of African agriculture. Also, ITA is hereby commended for our collaboration with national system. FUNAB, ITA, TAAT has sustained the regional contribution of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, in West African region. We are doing well with ITA, FUNAB Weed Management and Africa Cassava Agronomy Project. Thank you for being a good partner and facilitator. You will recall that we just concluded a 10-year sponsored Cassava Adding Value for Africa project sponsored by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Nigeria, Tanzania, Ghana, Uganda, and Malawi, in collaboration with Natural Resources Institute, UK. At present, we are in the final year of the World Bank-sponsored Center of Excellence in Agricultural Development and Sustainable Development. Our team in the Cassava Compact have concluded Train the Trainers training and backstopping of the use of 10% high-quality cassava flour for cassava bread and other confectionaries. The Togo presidency has committed IITA Cassava Compact for this lofty success. Private entrepreneurs are now adopting and adapting our recipes and eager to use HQCF whenever it is available. Ladies and gentlemen, we can transform our agriculture system to robust economic base using cassava with steady and unhindered investment for ethanol, starch, high-quality cassava industries in our nation. Nigeria grows about 54 million metric tons of cassava per year. Cassava is a versatile commodity with numerous uses and byproducts. For instance, starch companies have recently established deals to supply cassava starch to Nestle, Cadbury, Unilever, and so on. Unfortunately, most of them are now running at around 50% capacities, less than 50,000 tons of starch per annum. The demand for starch is expected to continue to grow at 5% yearly in total demand. This puts total demand for starch at 357,000 metric tons by 2020, especially as small companies seek to establish local production lines to service the expanding Nigerian and West African markets. Sorbitol for toothpaste, sugar syrups, sweeteners from starch. Our net import for ethanol stands at 300 to 350 million liters per annum. We are unable to produce 30 million liters, creating gap for further national investment instead of imports. It is on this note that I seek your cooperation to deliberate on how best to learn from past experiences and use the cassava value chain to unlock further opportunities for millions of farmers and contribute to food security, job creation and incomes, especially for women and young people in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to assure you that for now we continue to strengthen our national and regional support for the production of high-quality foods. We are determined to achieve safe and wholesome products to Nigerians. We are committed to sustainable manpower development through effective partnerships. Thank you for your attention, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Professor Felix Salako, for that welcome address. And I would add to his address by saying you need to pay a visit to the university to see things for yourself. That might be another thing that he missed out in his usual modest manner. But we also walk the talk by also investing in processing facilities that is present on campus. So for those of you who are in doubt, we welcome you. You can come and see the whole value chain on campus. Thank you very much, my Vice Chancellor, for that again. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's now time for us to beckon on some of the various stakeholders to give their address so that the formal ceremony can be concluded and we can go straight into the business of what has really brought us together. First on the list, without any formal protocol, I want to invite the Executive Director of the National Root Crop Research Institute, Umudike, in the person of Dr. Ukpabi, to please give his address. Please, a round of applause for him while he takes the stage. Thank you.
protocol, but I will start by recognizing the Vice Chancellor of FUNAB in the person of Professor Salako. I also recognize his teachers. They are physically present because I know he had more than Chief Dixon and Professor Pukanga. I will also recognize other members of the high table that include Professor Sani, Latif Sani, Dr. Abbas, let me call Andrew Chief, and call Hakim Chief, and any other member of the high table. Very distinguished participants in this forum, I bring greetings from National Root Crops Research Institute, Umudike. Ably being headed by my humble self, Professor Ukpabe Joseph Ukpabe. National Root Crops Research Institute started in 1923 as a British colonial experimental farm. And by 1976, federal government changed our name to National Root Crops Research Institute with a national mandate to research into genetic improvement, production, storage, processing, utilization, and socioeconomics of the economic root and tubers you have in Nigeria, in which cassava is one of them. It is really very sad for a father to have children who do not grow. As 40, they're still asking for financial assistance from parents. Thus it is how, if you're a researcher, you research into getting new varieties of cassava that yield very well. You produce fine products. Nobody takes all those things up. In this goodwill message, I want to put it on record that we have collaborated with the IITA for decades to bring to Nigerian farmers new improved cassava varieties that can withstand pests and diseases and give you high yield. I want to use this forum to thank IITA. We have also tried to see what we will do for Nigerian processors and farmers. We could not do much. So I want to use this opportunity. If you cannot pay, if your father cannot pay your school fees, somebody takes it upon himself to pay your school fees, you must thank that person. So I want to thank the organizers of this forum who are trying to help us to do what we cannot do as the National Institute that has the mandate on cassava, to enhance the utilization of cassava, not only in terms of food security, but in terms of income generation, which we are going towards. We are living for only resource poor farmers. We are now thinking about income generation and investment. So I want to thank the organizers, and I wish that participants here will take the opportunity that could not come from our institute to make sure that cassava grows to be the white gold everybody is thinking about. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, please, I want it to be on record that National Root Crops is going to support everything about that, financially and morally. Thank you very much.
Please, a round of applause to the Executive Director for NRCRI. He has given us the assurance that NRCRI is not just going to support morally, but also financially. Thank you so much, Dr. Okpabi, for that wonderful assurance. And for those who may not know NRCRI, they've played a very significant role in the new and improved varieties of cassava that we have today. We appreciate that institute for the wonderful collaboration they've had with IITA, with FUNAB, and other organizations, ensuring that Africa, and in particular Nigeria, has cassava on the table. Thank you so much for your time. The Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me invite at this point the representative of the Acting Director General of FIRO to come and give the goodwill message. Please, a round of applause to the representative of the Director General. Thank you.
The Vice Chancellor, FUNAB, all other distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the hall. On behalf of my Acting Director, CEO, Dr. Chima Igwe, I say welcome to this August occasion. Professor, the Vice Chancellor, sir, I want to say, in your remark, you said you are IITA investment in FUNAB, while Professor Sani is also IITA investment in FUNAB. We want to say, too, that Professor Sani is FIRO investment in IITA and FUNAB, too. Having said that, in FIRO, we have been very much involved in cassava. One of our mandate is food and allied processing. And cassava is one of our major research and development. And we have had a lot of milestones in this regard. Right from our inception in 1956, we have had some of these achievements, which includes mechanized gari processing. And some of these technologies have been widespread and not beyond Nigeria. In terms of the other product, we have the fufu. We have turned the fufu into the dried form, packaged, and it's been in the market. Three, we are one of those involved in high quality cassava starch for bread making, and with IITA too, making a lot of progress in that direction, despite the hitches that came with controversies about it in the National Assembly about the glycemic index. We went ahead actually to do proper research to see the effect on the health, and we came out with a very positive result, and it had been published. In terms of industrial products, we have gone very much in terms of some products such as cold water starch, cassava, glucose syrup, technology, sorbitol, adhesive, and ethanol. When Dr. Chief Dixon was giving the opening remark, one of the major areas he emphasized was processing, proper processing, efficient processing. I want to say that some of these technologies had been worked on, and we have the technology in FIRO. Particularly, one of the major issues that we have in cassava processing is efficient detoxification of the product to meet the standard. And I thank God I see in one of the programs that the standard organization will be giving us the standards. It's not just standard for cassava as maybe either chips, flour, but we want the standard for all the other derivatives. Having said this, on behalf of my DG, Dr. Chima Igwe, we thank the organizers for the invitation. Happy deliberation. Thank you.
Please, may we give Firo a round of applause again. When it comes to processing, you can't do without them. Thank you so much, Firo, for your contribution to the cassava sector. While we were listening to Firo, we had colleagues, senior stakeholders in the cassava industry talking about the Cassava Growers Association, the top echelon they worked in. Please, a round of applause to the president and his team that have taken time to come. We appreciate you, sir. Let me also recognize the presence of the representative of the Permanent Secretary of Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, in person of Mr. Bobby Adeniran. A round of applause to him. Thank you so much, Bobby. Bobby also doubles as the cassava desk officer at the office of the Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you so much for coming. And I think without much ado, may I invite Mr. Bobby to come and deliver the keynote address. A round of applause to Bobby, please. Thank you.
Good morning, all. Yes. Please, I stand on the existing protocol. Yes. I'm representing my permanent secretary, Dr. Umar Bello Mohammed, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. So, and is unavoidably absent from this forum because of other exigencies of duty. So please, I will be presenting his keynote address to the workshop. As we are aware that Nigeria is the largest producer of cassava with a total of 36.8 million metric tons harvested from 3.13 million hectares in 2013, with an average yield of 11.7 tons per hectare, but accounts for an insignificant fraction of global value addition of cassava. But because of the federal government support through the change agenda of the government, we raised the production to about 54 million metric tons at 15 tons per hectare and developed efficient value-added chains for high-quality cassava flour, dry sheep, starch, sweetener, ethanol, and traditional food. These are the things that through policy, through federal government policy, that we are promoting with the other stakeholders to really move forward the subsector. The federal government over the years supported some selected processors to acquire a large-scale 60 metric ton per day of high-quality cassava flour plant and upgrading of HQCF and Gari SMEs for efficient and profitable processing of high-quality cassava flour. Furthermore, in collaboration with the organizer of this investment forum, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and Cassava, we have trained master bakers on promotion and adoption of 20% cassava bread. Provide them with working equipment and capital as well to create local sustainable market for cassava and generate employment, while IITA provide research on product and good quality stems to farmers as a planting material. Considering the professionals and actors in cassava industry gathered here, I want to use this opportunity to draw your attention on the current virus diseases, cassava brown streak disease, that is ravaging East Africa and Central Africa, and is on its way to West Africa. It will take a collective effort in securing our country and region against this virus, which causes up to 90% loss in a cassava farm. I therefore urge you to use your vast knowledge and experience to advise the ministry on areas that are key to the development of cassava subsector in Nigeria. It is also pertinent to note that the ministry is working with a Malaysian firm to establish one cassava starch processing plant of food grade of 1 ton per hour capacity in 6 geopolitical zones. So this will complement the small SMEs with less than 2 to 3 tons per day earlier established. Also in the current fiscal year, provision has been made to equip Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Funab, with tissue culture laboratory with modern equipment to enhance rapid provision of quality and disease-resistant cassava planting material. On this note, I welcome you to this 2 days workshop organized by International Institute for Tropical Agriculture in collaboration with Federal University of Agriculture, Funab. Wishing you all successful deliberation. Thank you all, and God bless.
Yeah. Please, a round of applause again to the federal government of Nigeria for the support to cassava. Thank you so much, Bobby, for those inspiring words and some of the things that you are doing to promote cassava in Nigeria. I'd like to invite the representative of the country director for the African Development Bank to come and give a keynote address. Yes. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Good morning to you all, and a very welcome to those that are traveling from outside Abuja. I bring to you compliments of the Senior Director, Mr. Ibrahim Afao, who unfortunately had to reschedule his travel to Ekiti State. He would have loved to be here, but unfortunately, he was also required to be in Ekiti State, where he traveled yesterday. And he has asked me to come and make his remarks, which he would have loved to make himself. Let me just start by recognizing all the high-level representatives present here from IITA, from FUNAB, and may I just say that all protocols observed. I'm very delighted to join you in this investment forum, which is aimed at shaping the future of the cassava industry and the entire cassava value chain in Nigeria. This forum, as you know, is very important to the bank because, as you have heard in the previous presentations, the bank is supporting the Cassava Compact through the IITA. And I would like to specifically commend the IITA for leading this program on our behalf. There are a number of other initiatives that we are supporting, not only here in Nigeria, but across Africa in the agricultural sector, because the agriculture sector is the pillar of all the economies in Africa. And the agricultural sector is specifically central to our high fives priorities, which you heard earlier: Light Up and Power Africa, Feed Africa, which is central to this forum here, Industrialize Africa, which is also central to this forum here through processing and other issues related to agriculture, the cassava value chain. Integrate Africa, of course, and finally, the improving the lives of the people of Africa, which again speaks to the important role of agriculture. So these initiatives recognize the important role, as I said, of agriculture in the economy. But the focus of this forum is on cassava and industrial compact cassava more specifically. Allow me therefore to just highlight a few things that we believe, one, present the challenges that faces the cassava economy, but also the opportunities that are present in the cassava value chain, and I also highlight the role that government, private sector, smallholder farmers, and multilateral institutions can play. I think you heard from previous discussion, and specifically from the previous presenter, who gave us a very beautiful scenario of why there's so much paradox in the cassava sector. Africa is the largest producer of cassava in the world, and Nigeria specifically leads the pack. But we also heard that we are lagging behind in terms of value addition. And specifically, we are not even present in trade, which basically means that we do not export enough to generate foreign exchange that could improve our lives. So there is a paradox there. Here's a continent that produces the bulk of cassava in the world, but it is also a continent that does not participate in trade. This is a paradox. But there are opportunities that are emerging which we need to be seizing at this moment. There is rising demand, specifically in emerging markets, China and so on. But also there are increasing derivatives from cassava that are emerging that can be utilized. And we also need to recognize the important role of the constraints that have held us back from improving the cassava value chain. So some of these opportunities that we talk about are reflected in the increase in benchmark prices. But these benchmark prices are being led by countries that are leading exporters of cassava, Thailand in specifically. But they give us an opportunity to start looking beyond the raw cassava that we produce, to start seizing opportunities to be able to penetrate the global value chains. And that's where we think, as the African Development Bank, we need to be working with stakeholders in order to prepare them to penetrate regional and the global markets. So how can we prepare ourselves? We think that we now need to start thinking of a different model for investing in cassava. We need to recognize that the government alone will not be able to unlock the infrastructure deficits in the cassava value chain. And so the private sector has a role to play in there. But the public sector needs to incentivize them, to attract them to be able to invest in infrastructure. But also we need to recognize the important role of developing drought-resistant varieties, disease-resistant varieties, And again, research and development led by the private sector is key in that respect. We have seen what policy can do in this country to develop, commercialize the seed in other crops. We believe that that can be done for cassava as well. But one thing that is probably pertinent is that even after harvesting the cassava, it will go to waste without proper post-harvest management practices. And again, I think that the private sector has an important role to play in that respect. And for us to be able to penetrate the markets, the export market, we now need to start thinking of how to deal with the bottlenecks that hold back exporting. Market access, in other words, is very key. Let me just give you an example of some of the obstacles that prevent smallholder farmers and cassava producers and processors from exporting to other countries. One study that was done by the World Bank not too long ago estimates, for instance, it may not be specific to cassava, but it gives you a situation of how grave it is or how difficult it is to export. It estimates that to transport cattle from Kano to Lagos, 60% of the cost of that transportation is in transport alone, and 40% is other charges. So you can imagine just how difficult it is to transport, even within Nigeria, let alone transporting across borders, even to neighboring countries like Benin Republic and others. So without commensurate investments in some of these challenges, it's very difficult for us to take advantage of the opportunities that are emerging in the cassava value chain. So very quickly, the government has a role to play. It has to develop maybe a medium to long-term development strategy for cassava, where that may not exist. But it also, depending on the need, they need to start looking at the penalties that cassava producers and processors are facing specifically in the entire value chain. And as I said, the private sector has an important role to play, but this role mainly has to do with creating opportunities for research and development, capacity building of smallholder farmers, as well as developing risk mitigation strategies that will enable commercial banks to be able to provide access to finance for smallholder farmers that currently face the challenges of accessing credit. And I need to commend the government in this respect for the establishing the NISO and also catalyzing the emergence of other agricultural risk mitigation initiatives. We as development partners, we can only fill the gap, or we can only complement what the government is doing, what the private sector is doing, by providing technical assistance, as we have done, by also building capacity in a small way, but also catalyzing other financiers to be able to roll out this strategy that I talked about. To conclude, dear delegates, let me once again commend IITA for collaborating with us and other major stakeholders in the cassava value chain. And I also would like to thank FUNAB, through the Vice Chancellor present here, for demonstrating that the partnerships between the academia, research and development, IITA and other players is bearing fruit. We believe that this partnership, if rolled out across Africa, we can start seeing the benefits of investing in agribusiness and agriculture value chain, and specifically for the cassava industry. I thank you for your listening.
Please, a round of applause to the African Development Bank, Anthony Simpasa. Thank you so much for your wonderful words. He stressed the need for us our stakeholders in this room and Cassava in particular to seize opportunities. And he also underlined the fact that government alone cannot do it. The private sector should begin to think of investing and actually leading the R&D of Cassava. As development partners, he reiterated that we will continue to catalyze the transformation of cassava in Nigeria and Africa at large. And lastly, he commended IITF, NAB, and all the partners for uniting to fight towards improving cassava. I thank you so much for your kind words, Anthony. I will hand over to Ben now to continue the moderation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Godwin. Just while the speech was going on, we had coming into the hall the National President of the Master Bakers and Confectioners Association of Nigeria walk in the person of Mr. Dominic Tumba Ture. Please a round of applause for him for making our time. Those are those we expect to be using HQCF for the confectionaries and the bread. Next on our list is to hear from the TAAT team. And we'll be starting with the project management unit headed by Dr. C. Akim. So please a round of applause for him while he gives his address to this wonderful program. And I would like to say before he gets here that on the screen is a link that is meant to bring together all stakeholders, the value chain actors under one umbrella for interaction and business link. So please, we'll expect that you go on the link and register to be a part of that platform. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to stand on the existing protocol. I would like to change tact a little bit and show you a few slides because reference has been made to TAAT, Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation. That is funding this forum. Just out of curiosity, can you show me by hand if you have heard about TAAT? Please, if you don't mind. I just want, okay, quite a few of you, and I'm glad to know that there are quite a few who have not heard, so at least it will be useful. So I'm going to spend the few minutes that I have to just quickly go through and share with you what TAAT is all about, and of course, mention a little bit about cassava. So by way of, the person is too fast for me. Basic summary, I will show you 2 or 3 slides that summarize what the project is all about. It's quite a complex project in which cassava is one of the very important commodity. So I'm going to talk briefly about the program in summary, the structure and how it is being run, and of course, since we're in the Cassava Forum, I will briefly mention what the Cassava Compact is all about and allow my colleague who is leading the Cassava Compact to give you the details that will follow. So, by way of summary, the title of the project, Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation. You hear we say TAAT, TAAT. That is what it is. The total cost of this program is estimated about $1 billion or above. Of this amount, the African Development Bank has committed a sum of 120 million, which they are going to disperse in a couple of tranches, starting with 40 million, which they released this year, and another 80 million, which they are planning to release next year. We are expecting the other amount to come from other donors, including the World Bank, IFAD, the Bill and Melinda Gates, and all the others who are supporting agricultural development in Africa. It is a multi-donor project led by the African Development Bank. There are a number of CG centers, the International Agricultural Research Centers, that are leading the efforts in a number of commodities. There are about 12 of them. I've listed them on the board. I will not go through them. In addition to the CG centers, we have a number of development partners, basically other institutions, advanced institutions that have joined us to make sure we all implement this program. The program is going to be implemented in a number of regional membership countries. It is funded from a grant from the African Development Bank, and that grant allows every African country to benefit from it. But to make sure we bring on board those who are serious, we allow people to express interest. And so far, about 28 countries have expressed interest. So it's a big program, more than 16 institutions, more than 28 countries that are actually involved, with about 3 of them that have indicated they want to also come on board. It's a value chain compact made of about 9 commodities at the moment. More will be joining very soon when we go to the next phase of this program. But I've listed the ones that are currently involved. Of course, I start with cassava. Charity begins at home. We also have maize. We also have rice. We also have livestock. We also have wheat. We have fish. We have sorghum and millet. We have potatoes. We have beans. They are all listed there. There are what we call enabler compacts, and I will be sharing with you what compact means all about. The enabler ones are the ones that help these value chains to achieve their objectives, such as policy, such as capacity building. So these are like supporting units to help us basically transform agriculture by increasing the productivity of the focused commodities. Like every project, this has a number of objectives, which also are the components, the focus areas for the program. The very first one is to create an enabling environment, because we can only transform agriculture in Africa when we have the enabling environment, when the policies are in place to promote whatever we are coming up with. And then, of course, to basically facilitate the delivery of the technologies through what we call a regional technology delivery infrastructure. And I will briefly share with you what it all means. Then thirdly, to raise agricultural productivity. Like somebody mentioned, cassava, dismally, we are still averaging across Africa 10 metric tons per hectare. We can do better than that. We need to see how we can double that. To do that, we need to increase productivity. That is key to this program. And then, of course, we need to make sure such a complex program involving a lot of institutions, a lot of countries, is efficiently managed. There are a number of expected outcomes. I've just listed a few of them there. We want to increase food security. We want to increase income. And basically, we want to raise the food production across Africa by an estimated 120 million metric tons. And of course, we want to reduce the level of hunger across Africa. There are a number of beneficiaries. And of course, we'll start with the farmers and the consumers. And I'm sure all of us clearly fall within that category. If you are not a farmer, you're a consumer. So that alone covers everybody. Then there are the other groups. By way of the duration of the program, it's basically a 2-phased program. We're in phase 1, which we call Tier 1. A 3-year program, which started in 2018 at the beginning of last year, and it's going to run to December 2020. There's another phase that's coming, and I'll touch a bit about that. This is a program. It's not a project. It's a program made up of a number of projects. And there's what we call the regional technology delivery infrastructure, made up of 4 units. Simply, we have a project steering committee at the top, at the apex, that decide on the direction of this program. In addition to the project steering committee, we have the clearinghouse. And my colleague who is leading the clearinghouse will be giving an address very soon, and he'll probably tell you a little bit more about what the clearinghouse does. This project is about technologies. So we have to have somebody or some group that makes sure they clear all the new technologies that are coming out. We are right now implementing a number of technology within the cassava value chain. As we get more technology from research institutions, we want to bring them on board. Somebody has to make sure that happens. Then there's what we call the Commodity Technology Delivery Compact. You keep hearing Cassava Compact, and you are wondering what a compact is all about. The next slide will tell you. And then, of course, there's a project management unit that leads it. I'm sorry about the quality. The lights are not giving us the color that we need. But basically, the Regional Technology Delivery Compact is made up of those 4 units. At the middle of it all, if I want to show you, this is what I call Cassava Compact. We're talking about a compact here. Unlike every other project, it's important that you understand this. It is not just an alliance between the country, Nigeria, for example, and Cassava. It's more than that. This is the country, Nigeria represented here, among 20-something other countries. This is the CG Center, IITA, who is leading the effort. But more important, for things to happen, we have to link very strongly with the private sector, because we will not go anywhere in transforming agriculture if you don't bring along the seed companies, the agro dealers, the machineries, the processors. It's a value chain. And so that is critical. We want to link them with a sub-regional organization like CORAF, Asareka, to make sure it is not just a country-focused program, but it's a regional program across Africa. So those 4 elements are important. The country, the institution, the private sector, and the sub-regional organizations. That is what forms a compact. So when we call Cassava Compact, I want you to simply understand it is made up of these 4 constituents. I know there are a lot of growers here. I know there are a lot of private sector individuals here, a number of CG centers here. That's what a compact is. And what they do, they come out with a number of technologies that can transform cassava, for example. These technologies are sent to the clearinghouse that basically has to review and vet them and agree that this is what will do the job. When they do that, then they send in the project management unit that basically goes to the project steering committee to approve the work plan and budget, which goes to the bank, the African Development Bank, the World Bank, and all the other institutions to fund the program. In a nutshell, this is what TAAT is all about. And it's important that you understand that concept as we move on. The program is being implemented by IITA. IITA is what we call the executing agency of the program. Then there are a number of partners. IITA has to sign a memorandum of understanding with all the other implementation institutions, which is the number that are listed, the 12 CG centers and all the national partners. They also have to sign agreements with all the other non-CG centers, and they are basically managing this project through a project management unit in which I'm leading at the moment. Okay, please. Please. Okay. This slide I'm putting here for a purpose. Unlike every other project, what is unique about this one is that while we are focusing at the country level, we also want to look at how the commodities do across agroecologies. So that if we come out with an efficient, high-yielding cassava variety in Nigeria, we don't want to go and reinvent the wheel in Ghana, for example. Same agroecology. We should be able to use our policy component to negotiate with the team in Ghana so that variety can be released there under the same agroecology. So there is an agroecological representation of all the different commodities that we're dealing with. And that's why you see that map of Africa. That's why you see this map with all the different commodities. Right now, we have 9 that we're dealing with. Next, please. We have some targets that we want to meet. And again, without going through the other commodities, look at cassava. The average African productivity of cassava, we're a little bit generous here. We're even quoting 12, but we have said it's 10, we say it's 12. The latest figure we have gives us a figure of 12. There is a potential that we can get up to 24 metric tons per hectare. But we just say let's be a little bit modest and target 20. So really, to be effective, To achieve our goals in terms of productivity, we want at the end of the project to be able to boost the productivity of 20 metric tons per hectare, not even the 24 maximum that we can do. Right now, it is just 12. So I think we can do that. We have those targets for all the other commodities. But again, we're interested in cassava. How is it going to be funded? Remember, I mentioned that first slide, $120 million from AFDB. We are also expecting other partners, the World Bank, the Bill and Melinda Gates, to chip in so as to provide the funding that we really need to transform agriculture in Africa. $120 million cannot do it. We are targeting about $1 billion that we really need for this program. So I'm just trying to share with you, we have in mind how it will be funded. Okay? While we are dealing with TAAT 1 right now, the first phase of the program, we are also looking at how to go into the future, into another phase, and bring in more commodities to add to the ones we have now. But among the 9 that we have right now, we've targeted a number of them where we are going to give more funding. Cassava, again, is among those that will go into the next phase. It's very important. There are a number of commodities that were also listed, which are going to go into the phase 2, which will start next year. So there are 2 phases. First phase, 3 years. Second phase, starting next year, another 3 years, and it overlaps into a 5-year program. I'm almost there. Since I'm talking to a cassava audience, I cannot conclude without giving you a couple of remarks on cassava. Cassava compact. Cassava compact, like the cassava commodity, like every other commodity, will be implemented at the country level, not at the institutions. It's not being done at IITA. It's being done at the different countries that are involved within the Cassava Compact. And to make sure that succeed, there are a number of common elements that we want to make sure the compact focuses on. The very first one, the focus on technology. What technologies do we have to transform cassava, to increase the productivity of cassava to the desired level? This is very important. The technologies that we have selected have to be market-driven, and basically they have to be tested to ensure that transformation. There are a number of them that has already been selected, and my colleague, the leader of the cassava, will be walking you through that. We cannot do it alone, IITA being the leader in cassava. We need partnership from the private sector, from the public sector. We need transactional and transparent partnership. Those who agree to contribute in a certain forum and will give you the resources to deliver on that. Unlike other projects that you may be used to, they give you money, you say, this is what I do. At the end of the day, you write a report, this is what I have done. With the AFDB, it's a little bit business unusual. You will give us that report. We want to have an account to the last kobo, how that money was spent. That is what we want to be transparent, we want to be transactional. If you say, I'll give you $5,000 to deliver X, I want to make sure you deliver that X. If you deliver only Y, you need to give us the balance because you have to account for a very... I'm stressing this because I know many of you will become partners. Don't feel that it's a bulk when they start asking you to account for every penny. We really appreciate the partnership, but that partnership has to really account for itself. Scale. That is the other key thing we want to focus on. We want to do things at scale. We are talking about transforming African agriculture. We are not going to be talking about small little plots, small little experimental plots. These are technologies already proven, and we want to go in terms of hundreds, if not thousands of hectares. And I really appreciate the large-scale farmers who are within our midst here. That's the direction we really want to go. We want to make sure we move in that direction. And more importantly, the country policies, the regulatory environment, because it will only happen with government support. Government has to support us and make sure they make things easy for us. So, in a nutshell, that is what it's all about. I will show you a couple of slides. We've done a lot, but I will let the compact leader to talk about it. Basically, we started by engaging the countries. We've had a number of meetings across all the different countries in Africa, basically come together to agree on what needs to be done to transform agriculture in Africa. Next, please. And the 2 technologies that are really, really critical. to transform agriculture in Africa, to raise the productivity of cassava, we know that the planting material is a challenge. The good news is we have a technology that is going to make that easy. And that is basically the technology we call semi-autotrophic hydroponics, where in this room we can produce seedlings that will occupy 100 hectares very easily. Instead of depending on stem cuttings from 1 hectare to occupy 10 hectares, we can basically take seedling from a small room like this to go for hundreds of hectares. It's a very effective technology. It's been proven and it's going to be promoted. I just wanted to highlight that. You'll get details from the leader very soon. We've trained people on how to do it and they're all ready to go. We've set up the facilities across Africa. So we are ready to go to make a difference in cassava. Please. And again, we want to look at the value chain. We all know that. When we produce, what next? We don't want a glut. How do we process? How do we bring more cassava bread? You look at former President Obasanjo here, who is our ambassador. Who was our ambassador? Promoting cassava bread. Actually taking it to Tanzania and standing there with the President of Tanzania. Say cassava bread is not just good for Nigeria, it's good for Africa. We want to do more of that. We really want to transform agriculture in Africa. And with that short one, I say thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. I know we've heard a lot now about TAAT, and so I know the other colleagues of Dr. Akin would skip some of those things that have been mentioned by him in order for us to be more conscious of time and be able to go to the business aspect of it. So quickly, I want to invite Dr. Adebayo Bass, who is the Cassava Compact head, to quickly come and tell us all that is to be done, which I think is of more benefits to all of us seated in this room because we are all cassava focused. So a round of applause for Dr. Abbas, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As my friend said, my name is Abbas Adebayo. I lead the Cassava Compact. I would like to start by recognizing the members of the high table. Most of them are actually my teachers. And I have one of them who is like my twin brother, Professor Sonny. We've been together for several years, and that is playing out here, the strong partnership between IITA and the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. I would read through what I believe we are set to do and explain what is likely to be the benefit. Cassava remains one of the most consumed food crops in Africa, and the potential market for cassava products is large and growing. It is projected that an increase of 5,900 tons of cassava per year should be produced by every country to be able to reduce the food deficit that we have in Africa. Cassava should be able to contribute to reducing poverty and hunger. It's also understood that cassava must become agro-industrialized across sub-Saharan Africa to achieve poverty reduction and economic growth targets. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa imports annually about 50 million tons of food in form of rice, wheat, maize, sugar, and others, worth about $35 billion. This food import has been projected to increase to nearly $100 billion by 2025 with an increased reliance on them. According to Dr. Martin Vergene, the Director of Agriculture and Agro-Industry at the African Development Bank Group, while this increased import is a risk to the balance of trade for most African countries. It also represents a unique opportunity for crops such as cassava that grow well on the continent and can produce up to 80% of our food imports, especially in the processed forms such as flour, native starch, modified starches, sweeteners, and beverages. For cassava to become an important carbohydrate source in Africa, the triangle of poverty, of productivity, processing, and rural infrastructure must be met. Farmers must have access to technologies to raise cassava productivity from the current 10 to 15 metric tons per hectare in many African countries to 20 to 25 metric tons per hectare. Similarly, incentives for investment in processing needs to be made through the development of robust supply chains and government policies that reduce transaction costs for the processors. Lastly, rural infrastructure is as important as technology or investment in cassava processing. The average distance between a cassava farm and an all-season road in Africa is about 34 kilometers compared to 5 kilometers in Asia. This greatly adds to the cost of cassava as an industrial raw material. In Nigeria, average transportation costs could be as high as $2.5 per ton per kg. And that is as a result of the poor road networks in the rural areas. During the dry season, 2.58 could increase to $3.58 per ton per kilometer when we enter the rainy season. Transportation costs could be as high as 50% of the cost of raw material for a processing factory. In this situation, cassava products such as starch made in Nigeria is not likely to compete with starch from other countries. By making available to farmers yield-boosting technologies, providing technical assistance to the investors, creating incentives for the investments in agro-processing, and building much-needed rural infrastructure, we can reverse the declining per capita food production and greatly improve the livelihoods of the rural communities. The TAAT Cassava Compact, one of the 9 priority commodities in the first phase of the African Development Bank flagship program, TAAT, led by IITA, seeks to achieve rapid cassava intensification in Africa through raising farm-level productivity, improving the efficiency of processing, and increasing market opportunities for the actors. The project is scaling out modern production systems in Africa, promoting agro-processing industries, and linking smallholder farmers to strong growth markets. There are 5 technology packages and innovations of priority to us. We have groups of technologies that are under approaches for delivery of improved varieties, technologies that are under the group of modern crop management technologies, next, cassava pest and disease management, next, mechanization of cassava production, and mechanical processing technologies. Specifically, in the past 1 year, the Cassava Compact has introduced the new technique of rapid propagation of cassava, like Dr. Akem mentioned, SAH, to scaling partners in Zambia, DRC, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, and Togo. And in all these countries, they are beginning to build their laboratories to begin to use the SAH technology for rapid propagation of cassava. Yellow root cassava, what we call provitamin A cassava, or nutrient-dense variety of cassava, were introduced from Nigeria to Benin and Togo. In the next 1 week, we shall be discussing with the Togolese and colleagues in Benin how to distribute those planting materials to their farmers, and hopefully this will contribute to increasing nutritious food for the population. New approach for increasing the yield of cassava by combining improved varieties, proper land preparation, optimal plant density, fertilization, innovative weed control methods have been introduced to Tanzania, Burundi, Zambia, and promoted further in Nigeria. Extension agents are being trained in high gross margin cassava production system in these countries. Working with our partners, such as Akai, e-extension involving the use of radio and video has commenced with the goal of reaching millions of farmers with the best production practices. In addition, the Cassava Compact is helping to catalyze new investments in some African countries. These investments are being made by various African governments. For example, the government of Togo initiated the presidential initiative on cassava in 2018 to maximize the benefit from Cassava Compact technologies and expertise. In addition to the transfer of SH technology and provitamin A varieties to Togo, major achievements have been made in various other aspects, including the transfer of know-how on cassava processing and use of high-quality cassava flour for bread and confectionery products. FUNAB is contributing significantly to this success in Togo. We need to promote investment. However, in the past 17 to 20 years, there have been massive investments in Nigeria in the cassava industry. More investments are still being made. However, while some of these investors have been successful, others are struggling. Cassava industry actors are not fully linked to take advantage of existing internal and external market opportunities. While some farmers fail to sell their cassava, processors are unable to access enough raw material, and the demand from the industry for processed products is by far higher than the supply coming from the cassava processors. So it appears that the value chain actors are not properly linked. The cassava industry in Nigeria still needs some restructuring. We believe that despite that Nigeria is the leading producer of fresh fruit, the country is unable to participate in the global market for cassava products like starch and flour. Over 90% of global cassava exports is from Southeast Asia. The cassava industry in Nigeria must be better organized to enhance cohesiveness among the actors, increase business-to-business collaboration, promote internal trade, reduce importation, and make actors who collectively compete both internally and internationally. There is sufficient evidence to argue that there is scope for the use of cassava locally to reduce importation of wheat and other commodities. A new way to better organize the activities of the sector, combined with favorable policy, will take the Nigerian cassava industry to the next stage of industrialization. This investment forum, therefore, is aimed to serve as a catalyst for such collective action by Nigerian cassava business owners to promote further investment and revitalize moribund investment in the cassava industry. Our discussions during today's meeting should offer us the opportunity to identify the key elements needed to make cassava industry become competitive. Hence, the experts and notable players in the industry will focus discussions on several issues. This will include issues of production, the success factors for increasing outgrower, block farming, and backup farms to achieve profitable industrial processing of cassava will be discussed. The essentials of farmers' cooperative arrangements that support individual farmers' financial success. Route delivery arrangements that ensure uninterrupted processing operations. Success factors for a cassava starch processing investment. Factors to consider for manufacture and use of mechanical dryers in ways that prevent revenue loss. How spatial analysis can help investors to determine the best location to site their processing factories, reduce transportation costs. Youth need to be engaged in agriculture. And so we're going to have someone to talk about mindset change. More young people are becoming successful in Cassava by the government to the banks to support agriculture and agro-industry, especially the intervention funds for cassava sector. Cassava Compact is introducing what we call the Cassava Business Connector. Because the value chain actors are not connected and they are not able to do business efficiently, the Cassava Compact developed a web-based program to enable the value chain actors to automatically connect and promote businesses, and it has the potential to mainstream and strengthen the cassava value chain. We shall also display an innovation of TAAT Cassava Compact that takes modern processing technologies closer to the rural areas to reduce processing costs and increase profitability. All this should serve as inputs into the business meetings tomorrow, when we shall work together to develop a framework for better business-to-business engagements for the growth of the sector and the mutual benefits of all the actors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abbas, for that wonderful presentation. And I think he has whet our appetites to now know the areas we can start jotting to know I must ask how I would tap into this or tap into that. So I think we are gradually getting close to making an informed decision and then being part of it. For the Cassava Business Connector, I've still enjoined us who are value chain actors to ensure that we pick the link and then we register before tomorrow. Thank you very much. Finally, I want to invite the head of the clearinghouse to make his address in the person of Dr. Bukanga. Please, a round of applause for him while he takes the stand to make his presentation. And I hope he clears everything to make the money available.
Thank you. Yeah, the clearinghouse is for clearing everything. Sometimes they call it the cleaning house, so we'll be very clean. Distinguished representative of the country director of the African Development Bank, I'll start with you because without the bank, we will not be here. It is the bank that is making all of this possible. Distinguished Vice Chancellor of the University of Agriculture of Abeokuta, main organizer of this meeting, Chief Alfred Dixon, representing the Director General of IITA, also main organizer of this meeting, and all the distinguished guests at the high table, all protocol observed, and the distinguished ladies and gentlemen in your title and qualities. My name is Mpoko Bokanga. I used to be a cassava scientist in my younger days. Today I lead the clearinghouse of the TAAT program. My colleague, Dr. Chris Akem, has explained what TAAT is all about. I'm not going to go back into that. I'm going to take just a few minutes to give you a message, a very short message, but I believe that message is powerful. My message has 5 words, 5 small words. It is time for cassava. That's my message. Thank you very much. It is time for what? It is time for what? Well, you've got my message. I can go and sit down now. But if you give me 5 minutes, I'll just explain why it is time for cassava. Let me first say it is not time for speeches. Of course, we had to start the meeting with speeches, but this forum is not for making speeches. This forum is for taking action. We've been making speeches for the past 20 years. We can continue making speeches for the next 20 years. Nothing will happen. We have to start by taking action to make sure that things are going to happen. The African Development Bank has invested heavily. First of all, it came with a vision on how to transform African agriculture. I think the president of the bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, has laid out his vision to transform Africa with the 5 key goals that we heard about. And the second one, Africa must feed Africa and feed the rest of the world. To do that, we have to take action. A lot of research has been done. We can use that research. We are talking about high-quality cassava flour today. In our younger days with Abbas, we developed the high-quality cassava. We coined that phrase, high-quality cassava flour, in our laboratory in IITA. Why? Because we were promoting this product and calling it flour. In Nigeria, cassava flour is what? Lafun. So we started supplying a biscuit factory with high-quality cassava flour, and they were making excellent biscuit, better quality. But then a production manager thought he would be smart. He went to the market, bought Lafun, and used that in the production. Disaster. They lost everything, and they say, oh, no more cassava for us. That was in 1995. Today, 23, 24 years later, we are still here talking about high-quality cassava flour. But we have moved because now presidents can show cassava bread on TV. So we need action. Research has been done. There are a lot of research findings that we need to just promote. And as Abbas said, we are going to see one. We don't need research. We need application. We need to use the research to do things. We know how to process cassava, but it's very difficult for a farmer to go from their farm to the processing center that is far. Then application. Put the processing factory on a truck and take it to the village, and you can process at the village level. You will see the truck here. So what we need is not research anymore, is application. And we have people like Niji Lucas, who is an engineer. He can do it. So he can do it. He can put the factory on wheels, and he can sell it to you. What we need is action. We need the business people to invest in these applications so that cassava and all African agriculture can go to the next level. That's what we need. We need partnerships. Not a single organization can do it. Partnership, for instance, the University of Agriculture Abeokuta is partnering with IITA. Why not? If it's a good partner, they have the know-how, they have the skilled people, they can train the young people. Let us partner with them. Let them give them the means so they can spread the technology as far as it can go. Partnership is very important. And you also heard the business connector. You need to know where your partners are. You need to know where to find them. The Compacts has developed a very good unit. This day, everything is internet-based. Go to the internet, look at the Biz Connector. You will find the partner. If you are in the business of growing cassava, you need inputs. You will find supply of inputs there. If you want to buy cassava, you will find a list of producers of cassava there. If you want to sell your cassava flour somewhere, you will find the off-takers. So go to the business connector. You will get what you need for your business to thrive. Partnership is very, very important. It is time for making deals. And this forum is an investment forum. So the suppliers, the off-takers, the processors who are in this room, we should not be making speeches. We should be talking to each other and agreeing on who is going to supply what, who is going to buy what. We need to bring the commercial banks that can facilitate this transaction. And the African Development Bank, as the senior bank for our continent, it has programs to support commercial banks so that commercial banks can lend to agriculture. They call it de-risking investment in agriculture. There's a big program for that. So we need to have the commercial banks also here, seeing how their customers are making transactions, suppliers and off-takers, and facilitating those transactions. Lastly, what we need access to finance. Nothing will happen if there is no money to pay for it. Access to finance. The bank, the African Development Bank, has already done its part. They have invested in a grant. This is a bank that does lending as a business, but they have agreed that this is important. They will put a big grant, $120 million as grant, to enable all these institutions put the act together so that African agriculture can go to the next level. That we can increase our productivity, we can increase value addition, we can increase the supply of food to our people so that we stop importing food and we stop exporting our jobs to other continents that are supplying us with food. So we need access to finance, so we need to bring the commercial banks in our midst so that we can be talking to them. They can see that what we are trying to do is profitable. They can make money by lending to people in cassava, in maize, in rice, and so on. And that is the way we will go from where we are to where we want to be. We know for the past 20 years that there is a great potential in agriculture. We keep talking about that potential. The president of the African Development Bank has told us nobody will eat potential. Nobody will buy potential. So we need to convert that potential into reality, a reality of an agricultural sector that has high productivity, that is generating added value, that is generating jobs, so that our continent can feed itself and can feed the rest of the world. So what I expect from this forum is what? We should be coming out at the end of the forum with a list of transactions that have been agreed between the producers, the off-takers, the processors. Make your business known. And we in TAAT, the African Development Bank, we will do our best to see how we can support you to achieve those deals that you have established. We will do our best to make sure that institutions that support what you do are active, are in place, and are going to help you reach your goal. That is the way we'll take African agriculture to the next level. So let us make this meeting a valuable meeting. We should come out of the meeting with good deals on how we are going to apply whatever we do to make sure that we are adding value, we are increasing productivity, we are creating jobs so that Africa can go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bukanga. And I think he has actually set the pace. But I know that at this point, with all what we've been hearing since morning, a lot of us will now be looking at a situation where we want to clear some things on our mind. And for us to be able to make it the time for cassava. Sincerely, I know that quite a number of people can really testify to what cassava has done in their lives. But because of the change of things, it's not as sweet and rosy as it used to be. But now, with this investment forum, we want to go back to the good old days where cassava is making the mark and people can really smile with all their effort in cassava. So without wasting time, we'll just take 4 questions, one from this side, one from each of the rows. And these will be coordinated by the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Agriculture, who has the power to choose who is to ask the question. So from this side, starting from this side, I'm not coordinating, I'm only just setting the pace, sir. So we can go on, sir.
2 per column. Starting from the first column there, a lady and a man. First column, any question? Anybody with interest for questions there? This is the second column, 1. I will go back there. 1, anyone here? Second column, third column, question? Yeah, I did. Yeah, a lady here. Anyone still here? 2. The man at the back with the, what kind of cap is that? Jonathan or what? It's okay, with the cap. The last column, Ogweshi. And who is there? Who is, oh, you are going to make a man, 2 men there, at the back there. Anybody here? First column again. Now we can start with you, sir.
Thank you. Please, mine is about the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. With software governments, like during the time of Babangida, we have a lot about maize production. In the last dispensation, with Femi Adesina as the Minister of Agriculture, we heard about, he even promoted agri to the high level of agro-business. He was the one that brought that word. And cassava, with Abasanjo up to that time, cassava was very much promoted. Now, it's rice. In this dispensation, it's rice. Please, when are we going to get all these haphazard policies together as one to make the country get the value from agriculture? Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. My question is to Mr. Deniro. Am I right? You said so much about cassava. You are the one on cassava desk. I'm a farmer right from Erua in Oyo State. I want to know how all you have said will be stepped down to an average farmer on the ground. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Aloze Lovely is my name from Rivers. I represent Ego Farms. Aloze Lovely is my name. I represent Ego Farms. My question goes to the one from TAAT. There is a comment he made about the changing the youth mindset. This is in line with what we're doing presently in River State with Ego Farms, trying to get some young people involved in the agribusiness. So in the course of that, we're able to identify a lot of things. Some of the things we see to be obstacle in the long run. Because if you bring up a youth who has never done this before, you now start giving him orientation and start doing some changes in his life, and give him a focus on what we're doing. At some point, it's assumed you're going to achieve some level of results, and that is helping him to realize that he can actually make a living through this particular project. And getting involved, there are a lot of expectations. One of the expectations is maybe, hence you have changed my belief system about this whole thing. I am interested. How do I start? You have to go through a training on a particular technology to achieve a particular stuff. And after the training, somebody may be expecting you to get him empowered. So to the TAAT people, if we want to partner with you to start changing the mindset of some of these young people, I want to know further some of the things you have on ground. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Abdul Malik Ibrahim from Master Bakers. My questions goes like this. The last speaker made mention that what we need is application. Then what is the bottleneck behind the application? That is my question, please. Because we started this issue of cassava since Jonathan era, but up to now the application becomes a problem. This cassava bread, we master makers were ready to use cassava, but where do we get the flour? Is the flour millers ready to produce cassava bread, cassava flour? If they're ready to produce cassava flour, it won't be a problem for us in the baking industry in utilizing cassava flour. And we went 2 years ago. We went to one a workshop on this cassava at Abeokuta University. There, where we make use of cassava bread. We produce cassava bread. But to my surprise, the university there has a bakery in which they are not using cassava for production. So, do we continue saying cassava? What is the bottleneck behind the issue of cassava? I was told the gluten level of wheat is higher than cassava. I don't know whether the cassava has the gluten, this and that, give the desired bread we need. Thank you.
I want to stand on this already existed protocol. My name is His Royal Majesty, Eze, Pastor, Ambassador Philip Ajomiwe. I am the Chairman and Managing Director of Dofila Jones Agro and Allied Industries Nigeria Limited. We produce cassava and we process cassava. Most of them here, Prof, have been to our factory. We have been into cassava processing for a long time. My first question is this. Are we going to get this wonderful presentation from the TAAT, from IITA that gave us the information and what we need to do? So that's my number one question. I am really excited when the last speaker said, action. Right from Obasanjo, we have been in this cassava. Jonathan and the former minister, who is now the president of African Development Bank, did a wonderful work. What is Minister of Agriculture going to do in what we're talking about? Because they are one of the problems we're having. I am excited when I saw in the screen what is going on in Togo and Cotonou, other African nations. I saw baguette there. That's French bread. You know, that baguette, French people can go for a strike because of 1 centime increase. What our nation going to do same thing? Look at Togo here, at our backyard. What are we going to do to emulate them? We need implementation. I am happy to attend this program. We need implementation. That is why I was excited on the last person said, action is what we need. We are ready. The NCGA, they are here. Master bakers, they are here. Flour millers, are they ready? Flour millers and master bakers, are they ready to take our high quality cassava flour? We are promoting provitamin by IITA. How are they ready to take it? That's a very big question. And how is Federal Ministry of Agriculture going to help in what we are talking about? To talk to maybe the federal government to go into action. Nigeria. Let me stand for the meantime. I will still talk more.
I want to believe that many of the questions are meant for the Federal Minister of Agriculture. So I will start by requesting the speaker, representative of the ministry, to answer all questions. Haphazard, relevant to you, haphazard policies, why rice, why not cassava and the rest of you? How do you choose your crops? And other things asked.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. To the speaker that asked that mentioned that federal government policy on agriculture is it's not haphazard. You know, even when he mentioned that, when he asked that question, I have to send one of my colleagues to go and bring me the new agricultural policy. The way it reads is building on the success of the ATA, closing the key gaps. ATA is Agri-Transformation Agenda, the one we did in the past with Dr. Adeshina. So, you know, there is no way you will put up a policy that will be gaps here and there. Then you learned your lesson. You know, from the lesson you learned, you'll be able to close where there are inadequacies. So if you look at the green alternative, I implore you, they sell it in the ministry. It's 1,000 naira. You can buy. It's online as well. You can buy. So, but government is continuous. Hello, government is continuous. There is no way, they will put up a policy and you just disconnect from that policy and start, and there will be a sort of somersault, which is not there. So I just want him to realize that. The second person that mentioned about how does agri program step down to the people in the rural area. If you know from the other program, ATA, Agricultural Transformation Agenda, something like growth enhancement support was embedded in. That is a platform whereby agric inputs such as seed, agrochemicals were being distributed to farmers at the state level. The same thing with this current green alternative as well. The only thing is that the way they did the other one, then that they just put the agric input at redemption center, and some people may not even be able to come and redeem their input, and some of those things will be wasted. There is a little bit, they don't use such redemption center. We have offices in the state, Federal Ministry of Agric offices in the state. So from there, they coordinate the distribution of these inputs and agric input and seeds. So that's in such a place that those people will be able to monitor and coordinate it well, rather than dumping it at maybe local government headquarters. At the end of the day, some of those input will not be redeemed and it will be wasted. So it still continues, still gets down to the people in the rural area. So that is it. Thank you.
I think there are still other questions, but
okay.
No, wait. The last explanation should have taken care of what are the actions needed from Federal Ministry of Agric in terms of going down to the base. But one other question that you should probably answer from the green
alternative
should be, how do we get the youths engaged? Some of those things are stated there.
Yes, they are in the.
Elaborate on that, please. How do we get the youths engaged?
Yes, we have programs that empowerment programs that we have. That it's a platform for the youth. Even what we do is that we used to, after FAO in partnership with the ministry. We did one on cassava value chain. We did one on aquaculture, whereby they use cassava to formulate fish feed. The project has just closed maybe about just a year ago. Those youths in the state that they were involved were being given starter pack, including a small rubber pond and fish feed and and some fingerlings that they started with. So we have many of it like that. Yes.
I do not want to I should be mindful of the supervisory ministry of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. That was notwithstanding the issue of youth involvement in agriculture, I want to tell you about what we do because we train a lot of youth. We got involved in what we call graduate farming scheme some years ago. Bring your certificate as a collateral. We give you 200,000. We plow your land for you, you farm and all that. Give us our money back. Instead of some of them giving us our money back, they started postgraduate studies. They graduated from us. And we couldn't go further. We had to get the money, but it made, I'm telling you, when we criticize people in authority, we look at what we do too. That was there. We also started what we call community-based farming scheme. When making our farm practical year students to go to rural areas to practice. We started with 1 year. We modified it when the population was going up, 4 months and the rest. The idea was, look, if you are going to practice agriculture, you cannot go and stay in Tinubu Square, Lagos, and say you want to practice agriculture. Get to the rural areas, have a feel of the rural areas, and think about settling. I'll tell you, we had some successes. Some of them went back. In fact, we have some of our graduates now who come back to tell us, send us people to train and encourage. So how big that is, I don't think it's too big in terms of success, but we are trying on that. The truth about youth being in agriculture starts from the mindset that agriculture is something that shouldn't be done by anybody who is. Everybody wants to be an accountant, but the money is not there. Anyway, everybody wants to be a doctor, and yet they don't practice medicine the right way. And this concept comes from parents. But thank God we have young people who are, Niji is a typical example. There are many other young people here who are practicing. You find out that some of the people who are even investing in agriculture didn't study agriculture. So the issue of mindset for the youth must be a mindset for the community, for the society. That's mine. I want Professor Sonny to talk about the cassava flour in bread, and what FUNAB did not. I'll come back to you. What FUNAB did and didn't do. Thank you. He's in charge of the bakery now as a deputy vice chancellor.
What the master baker cited was when we were doing the training. That was more than 2 years ago, and we've started using the 10%, not 20%. I don't believe in including enzyme for cassava production. You do not need it as a nation. So 10% is what we are promoting, and let us stick to that. Out of the 50 kg wheat bag, remove 5 kg and put 5 kg high quality cassava flour. We don't need enzyme. Because of what we box ourselves to the use of enzyme, by the time we were unable to get enzyme from South Africa, some people went to the former minister that they need to set off enzyme industry. And for 4 years, they were strategizing. I don't know what kind of a nation we come from. During Obasanjo era, we promoted 5% and 10%, 5 kg high quality cassava flour, remove 5 kg of wheat. Go on with your recipe. Chief Mrs. Adetuji was the special assistant on food security. Mama is here. And we traveled to 33 states within 6 months in this country. No baker can tell me that they cannot produce 10% bread. You do not need flour me. It's just that we do not have ministers that can stand their foot and do the right thing for this nation. May God forgive Professor Dora Akinyili. When she was the Director General of NAFDAC, she almost shut down the flour mill. So the practicality of 10% is there. Thank God Togo presidency is commending IITA on what we have done in 2004 in Nigeria. 33 states of this country. Abi Chief Mrs. Adetuji is here. Dr. Alfred Dixon was our team leader in IITA. Integrated Cassava Project. Dr. Bokanga practicalized this thing with Dr. Abbas and Dr. Mrs. Olubo Onabolu. in the 90s. So what else do we need in Nigeria as a nation? Thank you.
Let me add something. I did a survey. I did a survey with NISA on wheat flour, wheat production in Nigeria. And one thing is very clear. Those who import wheat will never allow wheat to be grown even in Nigeria. And those are the people who will not allow cassava bread to be grown in Nigeria. They tried, there are some wheat producing areas around Maiduguri and the rest. They take them to, they will buy them from Niger State, from our study, but they will import the wheat they will use in Nigeria. And importers are making money, they will kill what you produce here. Please, your comment.
Okay, I just want to add something on what the gentleman from Rivers State said about youth in agriculture as it concerns cassava. You see, the wrong impression people have about cassava is that cassava for youth must be production. You see, in Rivers, we try as much as possible to let the youth know that if you want to invest in cassava, you can go into processing, like grating. If you go to Egbe or Egbe Ndoni, mobile graters were introduced for the youth. Are you understanding? So the youth must not have farms. The youth can go into grating. They are going to packaging. Are you following me? So somebody can say, what I'm going to do is to bring, let's say, 200,000, buy a grater, and be grating for people who are bringing their peel cassava roots. Another person can go into drying. You can bring 12 or 15 million naira and say, I'm going to buy a flash dryer. Your work will be drying grated cassava. It will be your business. Another person will say, I'm going to, if you bring big bags of 50 kg cassava, I'm going to break them down into 1 kg and be packaging for supermarkets. Are you following me? In that area, people who don't want to go to the field can still be involved in cassava investment programs without going to the field. But it concerns cassava bread. You see, if you come to my institute now, we have what we call Orange House Cafe, where what we sell only is cassava bread. But in addition, we add orange flesh with potato puri to enhance the vitamin A content or pro-vitamin A content. So anybody who comes to Mudike, as for the Orange House Cafe, you will see only, the problem is that the buyers are too many. By 1 p.m., they have sold off. Mrs. Omada Miro, Dr. Mrs. Omada Miro is in charge. Anytime you come there, so the youth can come and see what we are doing in Umudike and take it up. Get sweet orange flesh sweet potato, get it on, put it into a puri, put it on 10% high quality cassava wheat bread. The market is there for you. Thank you very much, my VC,
Thank you very much. There was a question about access to cassava flour. We have heard this question several times. Bakers are looking for high quality cassava flour, and they say there's no. Excuse me, please. Excuse me. There was a question at the back there. The baker was saying, "Where is this cassava flour?" All right. Please let us get this now. The baker is sitting there. A processor is sitting here. That processor is saying, where is that baker? He doesn't know him, but they are not too far apart. This is the question that, this is one problem we need to solve in Nigeria. Farmers are in the rural areas. They are looking for someone to come and buy fresh cassava. The processor is just at the local government secretariat. He does not have access to fresh cassava. It's a major problem, and now we have come with a potential solution, which is what we are calling Cassava Business Connector. Please, if you are very familiar with Uber, see the way Uber has changed the life of people who take taxis. This is Cassava Uber. What I will request you to do is to register. There are colleagues who are going around to register people. What it does is simple, and we are doing this for all the countries. But as we progress, we will develop the system such that those of you who are in Nigeria, if you are a processor, you go into the system, and then you see farmers that are just 30 kilometers away, 20 kilometers away from you. You click on an icon, the WhatsApp number comes up. You call and make business. Let me explain this. This program has been there for several years, but those who develop this program, they sell to individual factories, $5,000 license. And then they pay maintenance fee, they buy computers for them. At the end of the day, those companies will spend as much as $25,000 or $20,000. Cassava Compact is providing this free of charge. Take advantage of it. It is in this country that this problem is so serious. Don't let me say more than that. It's important. Please register. You would see the advantage. Let me stop there. Thank you very much.
I think the next question, I'll just direct it to those who will handle it. Bernard and Godwin, can they get the collation of all the presentations, electronic form?
Yes. After this program, that's one of the reasons why we're asking for your emails. The materials will be sent to your email, and then you will have all the presentations. Thank you, sir.
And thank you, everyone. I think you want to say something, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to buttress this point that I should have made earlier. The TAAT program, funded by the bank, is not a research program. Even though it is led by IITA, you have the UNAB involved, it is not a research program. We are not trying to do research. We are trying to solve the practical issues that will enable the sector to grow. What Dr. Abbas had just explained. What we expect him to do in what we call the compact. The compact is not a project. The compact is an agreement among all the actors of the value chain to do what needs to be done. So what we'll be expecting him as a coordinator of the compact to do is to create this platform that enable all the actors to come together and to identify the issues and the bottleneck, and the program will try to solve those issues so that the buyers have material to buy and the sellers have material to sell and have customers. That is the purpose of the TAAT program, is to implement, it is to apply what we know so that agriculture can move to the next level. No country in the world has developed without developing its agriculture. If we do not develop agriculture, oil will not develop us. Diamonds and gold will not develop us. We need to develop agriculture in order for our country to develop. And this is the target of the TAAT program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bokanga. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite Professor Sani to please give the vote of thanks. A round of applause for him, please.
To God be the glory. We want to thank African Development Bank for sponsoring TAAT. And we also want to thank all our leaders and mentors that are in the high table. I'm going to specifically thank the private sectors. The president of Cassava Growers Association of Nigeria, Pastor Adewumi, and the farmers that are here, thank you. The president and leadership of Nigerian Cassava Processors and Marketers Association, ICAPMA, that are here, we want to thank you. The president of Master Bakers Association of Nigeria, the former president and the new president, I think the two of them are here. We want to, and all the master bakers, we want to thank you. NOSAC Group, they are ethanol-based company with their expatriates. they are also in Nigeria doing some kind of data collection on establishment of ethanol plant. We want to thank you. AADL, that's the largest ethanol producer in Nigeria, if not in West Africa. CC and all other groups that are here, we want to thank you. Individual champions are here that have gone beyond all of us talking. And I want to start with Niji Luka. He's a private investor, he's doing his business as a fabricator, business as a processor, and business as a socialite. He's here, and he has invested quite a lot. Yemisi Naloye of Sultry Starch, where are you international? She's also here. I want to thank you. We want to thank Afes Feed. Mr. Adeyemi is also here, and several of you that I could not mention. All the SMEs, we want to thank you very much. And equally, the media are present here, and all of us. So on behalf of the group, I thank all of you, and thank the hotel. Thank you very much. Now, we are all going out for good photograph. Then we will move around the Cassava mobile processing facility outside. Then after that, we'll come for our tea break, and we will go into business. The CBN team, I'm very sorry. Central Bank of Nigeria is fully represented. I think Mr. Olukayode is here, who is the head of Agric Credit Support of the Development and Finance Department of CBN. They are here, and I'm hearing that CBN is going full-fledged on Cassava after this summit. They have a very solid plan for the country. Perhaps they may be the one that will help us in Nigeria. They are here, and we will discuss further. In terms of finance, CBN has money, and they have their own idea of how they want all of us to move forward. So we thank you for coming. SON, NAFDAC, we thank all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We will now proceed to the entrance of the hotel for the group photograph. After that, we will inspect the mobile processing plant. And after that, we will all come back to the hall and start the second business meetings. Thank you very much.